Welcome to the Bucket Plan on Demand, a podcast for financial advisors based on the best-selling book and process that simplifies financial planning. Hear from skilled industry professionals and special guests each episode that will help perfect your approach with clients and your results.
Thank you all for joining us for another coffee break. As we mentioned, today's topic, Medicare supplement plans and how to position them with clients. We've got a lot of great details to go through today and an excellent guest, which I'll get to in a second here. But as we mentioned in the open, if anyone is doing any Medicare or has ideas, things they've used that are working, any questions, please put those in the chat so we can make sure we address with the group today. But our guest, as we mentioned in the open, Gary Pelfrey, Director of Business Development at JL Smith and the head of our Medicare practice over there. Thank you for joining us, Gary.
Thank you, Matt, for the kind introduction. I'm truly grateful to be here today with each and every one of you and share some of the ideas around Medicare and how we use it in planning and protection, and also how we give solutions. Excited to get started.
Yeah, thank you. And Gary, probably too humble to say it, but he's done such a good job with our Medicare that we're continuing to build out our Medicare team here at JL Smith. And we'll get into the details of that later, especially for anyone that is doing that or interested in doing that at their practice. But Gary, let's get things started with this. What is the importance of understanding the different types of Medicare plans that are there to choose from?
Oh, absolutely. That is probably one of the most confusing things for Medicare beneficiaries as they're starting their initial enrollment, turning 65 into Medicare or exiting an employer plan, is to really figure out, what do I need, right? A lot of times they'll get that big book, Medicare and You, and they start diving into that Medicare and You book, and they get about 10 pages into that, and they close it up and they say, hey, I'm more confused now than I was before I opened up the book. It all turns into a big bowl of alphabet soup for them, Matt. And what I take pride in is helping them sort through that big bowl of alphabet soup that we can call Medicare. I help them start learning how to sort through that, right? So I always start with the two P words that you'll hear within Medicare: part and plan. And part and plan always have an alphabet behind them. We've maybe heard of Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D. The first thing I always share with my Medicare prospects, clients, beneficiaries, is that part tells the mind government. The alphabet behind part tells us what section of the government program we're referring to. As we encompass Medicare as a whole, what is original Medicare? It truly is an 80-20 plan through the government that you pay for either in your working years for Part A through taxation, federal, state, local, Medicare, Social Security. We're paying for Part A in our working years. When we get to the age where we can activate Part B, that's a reoccurring monthly payment that will come out of our Social Security check once a month, where they take it out and send us the difference. Or if we've paid into a private retirement system, SERS, PERS, STRS, they're going to bill them quarterly. So that can be confusing. We help them understand that. Right. But part is government. Alphabet behind it tells us what section of the government plan we're referring to. Plan is private insurers in the state we live in. So the mind should go there when we hear the word plan. The alphabet behind it really tells us which plan, Medicare supplement plan, we're referring to. There's plans A through N in the state of Ohio. They're standardized based off of that alphabet. So what I mean by that is Matt can have Plan G with XYZ insurance company. Gary can have Plan G with ABC insurance company. But when we go to the doctor or the hospital for the same injury or illness, essentially we have the same coverage. We're billed the same way. So the only difference there is the insurance company name on the card, and most importantly, the premium that we're paying. So having the entire buffet within Medicare of supplement, Part B, Part C is super important, because you're going to give them access to all of those options, because everyone's situation is going to be different as to what their solution is.
It's very helpful to understand the different and how to siphon through the alphabet soup there. But are there any misconceptions that you see from clients that they have about Medicare plans?
Absolutely. Obviously, there's two styles of secondaries, right? There's many insurance companies that represent both styles. Medicare Advantage is marketed through television and through mailbox material much more than supplements. So Medicare Advantage, which is referred to as Part C, right? Now you have government and insurance companies working together. Now we've got that bottle of Italian dressing in the refrigerator that we need to shake up every now and then, right? They separate at times where formularies change. Doctors can pull from networks and Medicare Advantage plan. Hospitals can say, hey, we don't accept this insurance anymore. So it's really an educating of the client of the different styles and helping them understand what would make most sense for them. But that is one of the biggest misconceptions is we'll see the marketing on television, dental, vision, hearing, meals, transportation, the give back benefit, right? All for zero premium. And Joe Namath's commercial stops us in our tracks and it says, hey, that intelligent light bulb goes off and it says, what's the catch? Zero premium. Those Medicare Advantage plans or Part Cs are generally like the HMOs and the PPOs in the Medicare space. They're familiar with that type of coverage because that's what they've had on their employer plan, the PPOs and the HMOs. So there are those styles within Medicare. Those are called Medicare Advantage plans. Those are marketed pretty heavily. Be aware, a lot of times the representatives that are speaking to those, calling you on the phone, maybe knocking on the doors, mailbox material, they may never mention supplement because they make more writing those. Where here at my group, we educate them on both styles. That fiduciary stance we take pride in because I want to educate them to the point, Matt, where they're never confused by marketing in the future, because that marketing on television is designed to disturb them emotionally and make them feel like they're missing out on something. Medicare Advantage, dental, vision, hearing, meals, transportation, the give back benefit. Notice
Right.
Joe Namath never talked about the hospitalization and the medical on that. It's
Right.
in the fine print. So when you hear Part C and Medicare Advantage, it's in-network coverage and it's 80-20 at best, and it does not travel with you. Now, it does work for some people, but generally with our clients who have assets to protect, okay, they want to pass that 20% on to the big insurance companies who have deeper pockets than them, right? So that's one style. That's Med. In the county we're located in, Lorain County, there's about 84 different Medicare Advantage plans available to beneficiaries. The other style is called Medicare Supplement. Here is truly a way where you can have 100% coverage with no bills on the back end, and you can freely use any doctor, any hospital, anywhere throughout the United States that accepts original Medicare as payment. Let's think of that. 95% of doctors throughout the United States are going to accept original Medicare as payment. Here's why. They know they're getting 80% of their pay from the government, pretty close to a for sure paycheck, right? If they have a comprehensive supplement attached to that hospital or doctor, they're getting 100% of their pay now. So there's never a time where original Medicare pays and the supplement does not. They're married. It's required to pay if original Medicare pays. So that Medicare supplement can really help you fill in the gaps around original Medicare, 20%, the deductibles. And it works well for a lot of our clients who have assets to protect, because a lot of times in retirement, they also want a vacation and travel.
Gary, we have a quick question related to this in the chat. Do Advantage plans generally pay the agent more than supplement plans? Seems like most agents in my area tend to focus on either supplements or Advantage plans, but not both.
Exactly right. And that's what I was speaking to. Obviously, there are right fits for Advantage plans. I represent those as well. But it all starts with the education. But yes, certainly if you are a Medicare beneficiary, you want to be aware, because you want to be able to talk about both styles. It's not only the insurance company, because example, Anthem has Advantage plans and supplements and Part Ds. We don't choose in Medicare space by company name alone. It's really a tailored program to fit their needs. It's not a one size fits all, Matt. But great question.
Yeah. And so you talked a lot about education, that portion, obviously how important that is, especially so those pesky marketers don't get in the way with that messaging. But how can advisors go about educating their clients on the Medicare supplement plans, and which ones, in your opinion, work best?
Yes, I get this question a lot. I'll start with the education, and it starts with the two P words. I have a chart where I explain original Medicare, the gaps in original Medicare. And then on the flip side of that chart, I talk about the two different styles, as I mentioned here. But really, it's tailored to the individual. One thing that is important to express is coverage of pre-existing conditions and guaranteed acceptance. So we all get that one-time guaranteed acceptance into a Medicare plan when we either turn 65 or maybe later when we're on that employer plan at age 68 and we're retiring and exiting that plan. We all get that guaranteed acceptance where they're not going to discriminate against maybe a guy like me who's a little portly and say, we have to charge you more because you're not the marathon runner standard. We get around that first time, but only that first time. So it's super important, Matt, that they pick the right plan out of the gate. That's why the education and getting to know that client and their needs, getting to know what their financial situation is, it gives us a chance to capture asset inventory. I've used this as a feeder program for our financial services opportunities here for many years. But really, that education is going to help you gather some of that information, but most importantly, tailor a plan that's truly going to meet their needs. I call it front-end planning, front-end financial planning, because if we don't do a good job on that front end, they're going to feel the effects eventually down the road from not having the right plan. But guaranteed acceptance is super important, especially for folks who have assets to protect and are already with illness and condition. Right. That's why educating them on the two styles, super important. I want the simplest way to explain the difference in Advantage and Supplement. Mm-hmm. Advantage plans are in-network based plans. They do not travel with you. They only cover you in emergency situations when you're traveling. 80/20 in-network, where supplements, right? You're with original Medicare still, but you've got that gap plan that's going to help you get 100% coverage. When you're on an Advantage plan, you're no longer with original Medicare. You don't have the backing of original Medicare. You're with that plan for the year. So you can't dip a toe and then change your mind. There's a limited window called the Medicare Advantage disenrollment period where you can first, 2 months of the year. But usually you're with that plan once you make that decision for the year. Education, getting to know the client are all super helpful in being able to give that proper fiduciary recommendation.
Yeah. And you hit on how you've teed this up for us in the past. I think this could be a good time too to segue a little. Like Gary, you and I were actually chatting about this earlier today, just of the success that we've had previously using Medicare for lead generation. Others on today's call might be doing that as well or considering that. But maybe you could walk through how you've used this for lead generation, like using the education portion, not as a sales tactic, but educating the prospect side and using that to tee up our advisors from the lead generation.
Great question, Matt. Obviously, we've marketed in the past within Medicare with our AFIA workshops. A lot of times we'll piggyback Medicare with Social Security. Let's say a Tuesday, we're doing Social Security. A Thursday, we're doing Medicare. It also gives that prospect a chance to see that financial advisor they may be lined up with after we help them with Medicare. So that seems to work very well, but we've used it as a lead generation in the past. I was sharing a story with you, Matt. I want to share with the group that's here as well. Back when we started our virtual marketing venture and the right fit call process, we all experienced COVID, and how we were going to stay in front of people was a big concern. What we found is Medicare pays us residuals So it's paying that firm, that agency continually. Think of how we can build a good source of income just from Medicare alone. But what if we use it as a feeder program and we cross sell as well? That's what we did. For years, Brian Bibbo and myself and the other advisors, I would do the educational workshops. I'd help them, give them superior education and service within Medicare, but all the while mentioning these other services that we have in the firm. And once we're done, I'm very easily positioning them with one of the advisors because they feel at that point the trust and the true recommendation. So it opens them up to maybe other things that we could help them with. That started working so well, Matt, back when the Medicare lane was only Gary. I grew that book of business so large that during the shopping window each year, Medicare annual enrollment period, October 15th through December 7th of every year, my calendar stayed so full. Some days and weeks, I didn't know how I did it, but from the time I hit the door to the time I finished, which might have been 8, 9 o'clock, and even Saturdays and some Sundays, my calendar was staying full with Medicare prospects. And those reviews were time consuming. So the service of your Medicare book, you want to make sure you start building out a team, which is what I'm doing now, because we did such a great job. We had to pump the brakes on the marketing and the education to allow the capacity to service and hold the promises that we had made to each of these beneficiaries. Now, being that we've pumped the brakes on the marketing, we will turn that back on once I build out my team and I have some more worker bees under the Medicare division. It organically still feeds the organization with not only Medicare clients, but tax clients, legal clients, financial clients, just because of the experience they've had with us. It gives them an opportunity to dip a toe. They're not paying us a fee to meet with us for the guidance and education, because within Medicare, it's a win situation. They don't pay an upcharge for using an advisor. It's the same premiums and rates as if they would have went out and navigated through this Medicare world on their own. So truly, I explain that to them and let them know that those insurance companies we enroll you with, hey, our group, you don't pay us a fee for the education and service. And boy, that's just because we're being fully transparent there. And that starts more of that trust build and then encourages them then to do more business with us and also refer.
And that's what you were saying is it turns into built-in lead gen and the best kind where they're reaching out to us. We don't have to do that external because as you said, from the start with the built-in education that they aren't paying for, you give them what they want before you can give them what they need because you've built that trust.
Exactly. And as they're on a Medicare plan, we let them know, hey, we're not going to reach out to you to review the plan during the shopping window because those dates don't change. Those stay the same and have in my 28 years in Medicare. It's their responsibility to reach out to us. So they know right around end of September, October, they're giving us a call and saying, hey, I need to review my Medicare plan. Because a lot of times, you remember that bottle of Italian dressing I mentioned? Anything that begins with parts, it can be shaken up and shuffled. That can be shuffled every year, even if nothing changes on your end, even if you didn't get new meds added or add a new doctor or a new hospital, if you will. So that's the importance of that review each and every year. I think we had a few questions. I know I got.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I just want to say that's why that education and review is so important because of what you said, the way it can be shaken up. So I'll get through these for you, Gary. Does the Medicare Advantage limit your option in the future to abort the plan if you are sick or ill due to underwriting?
Yeah, because when we talk about guaranteed acceptance and picking the right plan out of the gate, I always tell folks, they'll say, Gary, you're the professional, you're the expert here. What do you think? And I say, well, it just depends. If we have assets to protect, certainly it makes more sense to potentially look at a supplement. The advantage plans, you have some exposure and rules. But if you go into that supplement first right out the gate, guess what? You always have that Advantage plan in your back pocket as a default option. No questions asked, no health questions, no, have you ever had any disease of the heart, lungs, kidneys, any surgeries, any meds, right? There's no underwriting to go from a supplement into an Advantage plan. You just have to do it during Medicare annual enrollment period. But let's say you're that individual who gets the education, and I've showed you the two different styles, and you say, you know what, Gary, I don't use health insurance much. I'm pretty healthy. I really don't want to pay premium for something I'm not going to use much. I'm going to go with that Advantage plan. Okay. As long as you understand the difference in the two and also crossing back and forth from Advantage to supplement, they've used their guaranteed acceptance to go into an Advantage plan if they go that route because they like zero premium and they're healthy. But what happens 3 years down the road and something happens, they have that stent put in or they have a heart attack or whatever it may be, and they start getting those bills, those co-insurances, right? Those deductibles that hadn't been paid yet. And they've recovered and they're eating well and exercising. They've lost some weight. I always use Mr. Jones as an example. He's that story. Mr. Jones calls me 2-3 years later after his initial enrollment and says, hey, Gary, how you doing? Doing good, Mr. Jones. How are you doing? I'm doing better now, but I had a little heart problem and they said I had a heart attack. They put in a stent and I'm starting to get these bills in the mail. And it seems every 2 days I get another $1,200 or $1,800 bill from a doctor I don't even remember seeing. I don't like this plan. I want to go to that other way. That's where we have the problem, because then we will have to underwrite them back into a supplement. So I have to then ask all those questions and supply to the insurance company the have you evers, yes, no's. And then that insurance company weighs out the risk. And a lot of times, Matt, in that situation, it's a soft no, I call it. They'll send Gary an email and it'll say, hey, appreciate the application, but at this time, we can't issue the supplement for Mr. Jones. But if he gets better in 5 years, we can reapply. A lot of times they're then stuck in that Part C world. And every year we're looking for the best plan with lowest max out of pocket, hospitals, doctors, and prescription drugs at the lowest cost. So there's more maintenance. And a lot of times we can be stuck in the Advantage plan world if we get sick while they're there. So guaranteed acceptance, super important. Education, super important.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I appreciate you going through the differences there and why that education piece again is so important. And just so everyone knows too, I know we're only going so deep into the different parts and plans here. We actually have a podcast just on this that Gary and I did. I think it was around this time last year around open enrollment. So you can make sure you check that out, or we'll make sure that we get that out to everyone.
And we're working on another one with Brian and myself that should be out there soon as well. So
awesome. Thank you for the plug there. So we'll get on to the next question. Gary, how early should someone start the education process before the window opens?
If it's an initial enrollment, like turning 65, I want to start that education anywhere from 3 to 6 months before that time. If it's someone exiting an employer plan, there's a lot going on there, at a minimum of 3 months. The education part of Medicare, Matt, truly does give you the opportunity to get to know them and get to know their needs, get to know what's in their estate. So you're qualifying them while you're helping and educating them, which is really staging that transition of positioning over into the financial world.
Got it. And we got a couple more minutes, but I think we can get to our last question here. Why is the open enrollment period so busy for some agents? Seems like it's more of a benefit for the agent than the insured.
That's a good question. The open enrollment period is so busy because not only are you servicing your existing books, you're having to dive back in and really review each and every one of those plans. So there's a lot that comes along with that. We're reviewing the Part D That's the thing that can change the most. That's the thing that can get shaken and shuffled the most each and every year. We can't assume because we were on the right plan for Part D or Part C last year that it's going to be the right fit for us going into the next year. We missed that window, then we don't have an opportunity to switch. We're with that plan again for another 12 months and accepting any and all of the changes. So that's why that annual enrollment period is so busy for a lot of agents. The busy ones are generally the ones who are servicing a book, and they're also getting referrals to their friends who need help because of the confusion around Medicare. It really does create more opportunity for the advisor, and it's a guaranteed lead source. And that's why I'm so excited to teach some of the younger advisors, the client service associates, about Medicare, because if we teach them this piece, they're always going to have people to talk to.
Great. Thank you for sharing all that, Gary. And I think we're wrapping on. We had a couple that came in at the last minute, but we'll make sure we get everybody their answer for today. Thank you for tuning in. As a reminder, Gary is on our Mentor Connect portal. Somehow he finds time to take all those calls amidst all the right fit calls and Medicare he's doing over at JL Smith. So please make sure you check out Mentor Connect to book some time with Gary. Thank you, Elaine, for putting in the chat. Next week's topic, cross-sale strategies. Obviously, Medicare being a part of that, but we got a good one coming up next week. And for all of you, thank you again for tuning in this week. And Gary, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you much. Good seeing everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bucket Plan on Demand, brought to you by C2P, an organization whose purpose is to educate, train, grow, and support holistic financial advisors so families can achieve true prosperity. Subscribe today for the latest episodes and insights. Visit c2penterprises.com to learn how we can help support and enhance your advisory business. At the time of delivery and any subsequent publishing, information was deemed reliable, but is subject to change by the time of listening or viewing. The contents of this piece include options and projections of C2P, are subject to change, and are for informational purposes only. The information provided in this presentation is not intended to be individual investment, tax, or legal advice.